What is going on, everyone? My name is Joey Gast. I'm a Nutrition Inc. Dietetic Intern, and today we're going to talk about one of the most popular nutritional supplements for athletes, creatine. Now, I'm sure whether you're an athlete, maybe you're just a recreational bodybuilder, maybe you just go to the gym a few times per week, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of creatine. So who typically uses creatine? Creatine is one of the most popular nutritional supplements for athletes. Among athletes and military personnel, creatine use is somewhere around 15 to 40%, with most of those users being male strength or power athletes. Although creatine use is so common among male athletes, among female athletes, creatine use is only reported at about 0.2 to 3.8%. First, we're going to talk about what actually creatine is. Creatine is actually a naturally occurring non-protein amino acid typically found in seafood and red meat. About 95% of the creatine in the body is found in the skeletal muscle, with small amounts, about 5%, found in the brain and the testes. About 1 to 2% of intramuscular creatine is actually broken down into creatinine and excreted in the urine. Therefore, the body actually needs about 1 to 3 grams of creatine per day to replenish our creatine stores and maintain normal levels. So because creatine is found primarily in red meat and seafood, vegetarians typically have a lower amount of intramuscular creatine compared to meat eaters or omnivores. Okay, so let's go into the metabolism of creatine and how it's actually used in the body. Creatine plays a really important role in maintaining energy availability in the body, especially during strenuous exercise. Creatine's primary metabolic role is to combine with a phosphoryl group and form phosphocreatine. And this phosphocreatine can play an extremely important role when we need to replenish energy very quickly. Let me explain. We produce energy when we break something down called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, which I'm sure is something you all have heard of in one of your science classes at some point. We break this ATP down into ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate. So basically we're taking out one of those phosphate groups or phosphoryl groups from the ATP. And this reaction helps us to produce quick energy. So in order to repeatedly produce the most efficient amount of energy, we need a constant supply of ATP available to break down. And this is where the phosphocreatine comes into play. This is where we can actually take the phosphoryl group from the phosphocreatine, combine it with that ADP end product that we had from ATP breakdown, and form another ATP to use for energy. So by supplementing with creatine, we can form more phosphocreatine, which then we can use that to break down and form more ATP very, very quickly. So this all sounds good in theory, but let's look at the research and see if it actually has an impact on sport performance. So creatine has been shown to increase performance through enhanced acute exercise capacity. Simply put, our bodies are able to do more work. This consistent extra workload has been shown to increase muscle mass, gains in strength, and overall performance due to an overall increase in quality of training. Performance in high-intensity exercise has been shown to be increased by up to 10 to 20% after creatine loading. So for example, instead of being able to only do 10 reps of a 200-pound bench press, for example, you're able to do maybe 11 or 12 reps. 1 to 2 extra reps may not seem like a lot, but think about that extra 1 to 2 reps in every set, in every workout, in every training session, and every day throughout the years, months, etc. And that can add up to make a huge difference in the long term, especially at the highest level of competition. Creatine supplementation can also help athletes recover from their training. Evidence also suggests that creatine supplementation can reduce muscle damage from intense exercise, reducing the recovery demands between exercise sessions. Creatine supplementation has also been shown to reduce certain inflammatory markers after aerobic training that usually end up leading to a decrease in performance. Evidence also shows that athletes taking creatine have a reduced reported incidence of injury, have a reduced risk of heat-related illnesses due to dehydration, have less muscle mass loss during immobilization injuries, and may even experience less damage from concussions, traumatic brain injury, and/or spinal cord injury. All right, now we're going to dive into how to actually take creatine, what proper dose you should take, etc. The most effective and efficient way to increase creatine stores in the body is to consume about 5 grams 4 times per day for about 5 to 7 days. So this is a total of about 20 grams creatine per day for the first week. This will make sure that your creatine stores in the muscle are fully saturated, and then to properly maintain that saturation, just consume around 3 to 5 grams per day onward. That first week where you're consuming about 20 grams per day is typically called the loading phase, and this loading phase a lot of times has been reported to cause GI discomfort in individuals. So instead of starting out with the loading phase of 20 grams per day, you can actually just start out with 3 to 5 grams per day, and it will just take about 28 days to fully saturate the muscle as opposed to only about a week. So keep in mind that because it's taking longer for your muscles to get fully saturated without doing the loading phase, that it might take a little longer to actually see the benefits in your performance from creatine supplementation. But this is only a few weeks of training, and if you aren't competing directly in that time, it likely won't make much of a difference in the long term. And it could be beneficial since then you won't have to worry about all of that GI discomfort that could come from taking those really high doses in that first week. Okay, so we went over what creatine is, the performance benefits, and how to properly take it. Now I know what you're probably thinking, is it safe? Over 1,000 studies have been conducted on creatine since its popularity began to rise in the early 1990s. The only consistent side effect of creatine supplementation that has been shown in the literature is weight gain, likely due to increased water retention in the muscle and increased muscle mass gain. Short and long-term studies in healthy and diseased populations, from infants all the way up to older adults, even at doses as high as 0.3 to 0.8 grams per kilogram per day, these intakes up to 5 years have shown no adverse health risks. So which form of creatine should you buy? The most commonly studied form of creatine in the literature is creatine monohydrate. Other forms may be more expensive and may be promoted to give you some kind of increased benefit, but these other forms have not been studied nearly as much for the effectiveness and the safety of supplementation. So you're better off buying a bulk powder that is flavorless and is pure creatine monohydrate. Now I will end with this. Creatine monohydrate is not some magic substance that's going to give you a ton of results if your training isn't on point, your nutrition isn't on point, or your sleep and stress management isn't on point either. So once you have all those other variables dialed in, then you can start thinking about creatine monohydrate supplementation. I hope this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.